Morning, everybody. I would like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 11th of June 2025, and I declare the meeting open at 9 a.m. I'd like to advise attendees in the room this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. We now move on to leaves of absence, and we have 3 this morning. Okay, so we have Councillor Jeremiah up first. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Murphy, do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Bannon, all those in favour? It has been carried with the exception of Mayor Raven. How do you vote?
Abstain for reasons. Abstain because the reason that he's provided isn't what he's doing, why he isn't here. He's promoting a mobile office at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have the other 2 coming up on the board, I believe. Oh, Councillor Bradley. Okay, Councillor Bradley, do we have a mover for that motion? Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Wilcox. All those in favour? It has been carried unanimously. And finally, we have Councillor Fraser. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hall, seconder. Councillor Murphy, all those in favour? And that has been carried. Thank you. All right. Confirmation of the previous committee meeting minutes. There's a motion on the board. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Bannon, seconder. Councillor Murphy, all those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. All right, off to a flying start. Declarations of conflicts of interest. I now refer to declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any councillors wish to declare a conflict today? There being none, we'll move on to general business. Councillors, does anyone have any general business for the Health, Climate and Conservation Manager, Mr. Brett Espenson, this morning? No, Brett, do you have any for us?
Through the Chair, yes I do. 3 items to cover today. First of all, thank you to the Mayor and the councillors who were able to attend LEAF on the 1st of June for the World Environment Day primary school poster competition. It was a very successful event, and even with the wet weather in the week advance, we still got through a very good event, and thank you to the events team for that. We had more than 5,500 attendees, which is a 28% increase from last year, and 4,000 people marked themselves as coming on socials, which has doubled what was in 2024. Unsurprisingly, Bluey and Bingo proved to be the 2 biggest hits, probably behind Frogman as well on the day. Secondly, I want to provide an update on the community clinics community clinics report that I provided up in April, where we were changing the schedule of our immunisation clinics. So the new Chambers Flat clinic will start on Wednesday the 2nd of July from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. every fortnight on a Wednesday, and that will also see the closure of the Greenbank Community Hall and Jimboomba Library clinics, which will have their last clinics on the 23rd and 26th of June respectively. And capacity will be increased at Yarrabilba to balance that out as per the report, and we'll be doing social media and updates to the website on that. And finally, just a reminder to the Mayor and Councillors, you've received an invitation for the Logan Eco Forum Community Celebration on the 21st of June at the Kingston Butter Factory from 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. This is where we'll recognise the successful Enviro Grants recipients for 2025. So commend that to everyone. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Brett. Lots happening. Councillor Hall, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it's just, it's actually Frog Hunter. Like, I go out and I hunt for frogs. If I was Frogman, a lot of people do call me Frogman. I'd probably be in a wetsuit, like running around. Just for the record.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. All right, well, thank you, Brett. I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you for that. Does anyone have any GB for the Development Assessment Manager, Mr. Stephen Ball? No, Stephen, do you have anything for us?
Through the chair, no, I don't.
No, wonderful. I'll let you get back to the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Okay, we move on to reports. We've got 3 reports today, and I'd like to begin with item 6.1, the International Forum on Energy Transition and Alliance of Zero Carbon and Zero Waste Cities. I note that 6.1 is a public report, and I'll now refer to the Waste and Resource Recovery Manager, Mr. Michael Asnakar, to please speak to the report.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, councillors. Sister City Suzo are hosting an International Energy Transition, Zero Carbon and Zero Waste Forum in October, and they've invited representatives from Logan to attend, including an offer to cover 2 nights accommodation, local travel expenses and waiving rego fees. The forum is expected to showcase emerging energy from waste technologies from international providers, and the Suzo City officials have also offered to provide LCC attendees visits to their local operational energy from waste facilities, where we'd be able to speak firsthand to those operators about the operational benefits and challenges of those facilities. Given a number of energy from waste facilities are being proposed for South East Queensland, it's a very timely and topical opportunity, as Council will need to consider its role in local energy from waste proposals as an option for sustainable long-term waste disposal, particularly as our landfill airspace decreases. This report seeks Council's endorsement for the Mayor or his delegate, proposed to be the Chair, and the Waste Manager to attend along with associated travel arrangements.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any questions? Oh, Councillor Lane.
Thank you very much. My question is for the Mayor. Are you attending or are you sending a delegate? And what is the benefits that you see from this?
Sending a delegate, the form of the Planning Economic Development Chair. The benefits are that the region is going to have to move to waste to energy in the next 10 to 20 years, and the work that's being done on what that looks like is happening right now. I would love to attend, but there's already a fair bit of travel on my dance card this year. So if Councillor Sem goes, I know she's passionate about waste and particularly waste energy. I think she'll be a great representative, and she'll come back with a lot of knowledge that we can use to inform our decision making in regards to a future waste energy proposal.
Any further questions? Do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor Bannon, second by Councillor Murphy. All those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. Oops. All right, let's move on to item 6.2, Queensland Waste Strategy 2025 to 2030 draft for consultation. I note that this is also a public report, and I will now refer to Michael to also speak to this report.
Okay, thanks, Chair. The report presents the proposed response to the Queensland Government's draft new waste strategy. There are several pages of responses to numerous questions, but I'll just highlight some key issues. The objectives, focus areas and general intent of the new strategy are all great. Reducing waste to landfill, extracting value out of waste, reducing the impact of waste on the environment and reducing the cost of living, all very good. The current plan at the moment, it seeks a landfill diversion rate for municipal solid waste, so domestic waste, of 55% this year, 2025, and 70% by 2030. Those targets will simply not be achieved. The key step change required to achieve 55% diversion of council waste or domestic waste would be to provide a food and garden organics collection service, so a FOGO service, because nearly 40% of a typical household bin is garden waste and food waste combined. However, there are cost, capacity and regulatory constraints on councils and industry to be able to viably do that. And that means that councils, we're caught in having to pay an increasing waste levy on volumes for which there is no viable or economic way to divert from landfill at the moment. A key piece of feedback, therefore, is a suggestion that the government consider pausing the waste levy rebate for a couple of years until such time that we start having a viable FOGO industry that councils can use. Further to that, the achievement of the targets also requires the state to support councils with grant funding, and that grant funding has been paid for by the community through the waste levy, and it should be reinvested back into the industry and the sector, keeping in mind that only 70% of the waste levy is currently reinvested back into the sector. Access to funding is currently quite cumbersome and it's difficult, even for projects and programs that are clearly aligned with the state government objectives. So a suggestion is that that access to funding needs to be made easier. We do welcome the proposal for a $130 million local government infrastructure fund. However, across Queensland, I'd suspect there's billions of dollars of waste infrastructure upgrades needed. So that fund would be hotly contested, if it is a contestable fund, which we don't quite know at the moment. But Logan, we're certainly poised to make applications for funding for upgrades to our community transfer stations if that funding does become available. Also worth making the point that there's a lot of focus on what councils could or should do, but we need to remember that councils are at the end of the pipe when it comes to waste management. We have to deal with all the excess packaging, the throwaway cheap appliances, the batteries, the mattresses, the e-waste, the solar panels, when it would be much better if that waste was avoided in the first place, with better import restrictions, design standards, or through product stewardship schemes where manufacturers took more responsibility for dealing with the waste that they create. And then just finally, just to mention that the strategy also covers off on illegal dumping, and through the city livability branch, the illegal dumping team have also incorporated feedback suggesting ongoing funding from the state to councils to assist with illegal dumping investigations and enforcement. So I might just leave it there, Chair. Like I said, several pages of commentary, but they're the key points.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, there's a lot of good feedback in there, and like you said about the stewardship, that's the key to a lot of things, isn't it? You know, design and stewardship, getting the products right in the first place. Okay, I have Councillor Lane and then Mayor Raven, please.
Thanks very much. Through you, Madam Chair. Michael, what's the difference between the 70% that the current government's saying that they'll reinvest into waste management versus the previous government?
They're the same.
They're exactly the
70%.
same.
Yep.
So how much of this new announcement is different other than the 130 million? And previously there was money available for waste, wasn't there? For projects?
Yeah, there's an existing fund called the Jobs and Recycling Fund.
Yep.
The applications for funding through that for local governments in South East Queensland at least are sort of channelled through ComSec. This additional funding, it looks like that's going to be on top of the Jobs and Recycling Fund.
Yep.
At this stage, it's a document seeking feedback, I suppose. So
More consultation.
Yeah, more consultation.
We
So
love
this will then
consultation.
inform what the final strategy from the government looks like.
So one of the interesting parts that when I was reading this, the Queensland government has committed that 70% of the levy will be reinvested into waste management and resource recovery projects. Was it 70% of the funds that we actually, that ratepayers paid when they went to the waste tip and council pays to the state? Does it come back to Logan City Council, or is it distributed throughout the state? Do we get the 70% back of the money that we've put in, or is it statewide?
No, it's statewide. So we get the advance payment. So we get that rebate.
Yep.
But beyond that, it's not what we.
It's not equitable and fair.
Well, it's not what we
don't get
contribute.
back what we put in.
You get back exactly 70%. No, that's done on a grant basis.
And so the rest of the money goes where?
A consolidated revenue.
Oh,
The 30%.
Yep.
Yeah, the 30%. Yeah.
The other thing that was raised in this was that New South Wales is increasing their waste levy fees, and there could be an flow-on impact to Queensland as a result of that. Are we worried about that here in Logan?
No, we don't need to be worried about that for Browns Plains landfill. No, because we are probably just that bit too far away for transporters to be coming this far. Plus, our gate fees would deter them anyway.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. I have Mayor Raven.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. So what you're saying, Michael, is that the targets that the state is setting for waste diversion out of wheelie bins is unachievable because there's no way for us to manage FOGO due to their legislation requirements.
Yeah, so there's certainly some constraints in terms of the regulation that they put on organics like composters. They are addressing that. There's been an announcement recently about a review of PFAS limits and things like that, which hopefully will make the viability of the processing a bit better. But early days, I mean, there's still a way to go.
So there's no way for us to hit the target. They're going to reduce the rebate we get because we won't hit the target, which they're stopping us from hitting because they're not moving quickly to address the legislative and status requirements. And the funding that they generate out of that goes into consolidated revenue.
So a couple of things there. So the rebate is not based on the achievement of targets or not. It's not linked at the moment directly to achievement of targets. It's sort of a fixed rebate. The second part of the question was...
And so then it's just the reinforcement that they're not moving quickly to address the PFAS issue. So we can't introduce FOGO, but we're going to get hit with a lower and lower rebate every year, which means that waste levy that people pay on their everyday wheelie bin, not what they drive to the tip and take, is going to go up every year, irrelevant of whether or not we hit our target. So there's no reward for effort even if we could hit our targets.
Yeah, so the reward for hitting the target is that we'd be paying less levy because there'd be less volume of waste going into the landfill. So that's the incentive there. But at the moment, no council in Queensland is or can viably introduce a FOGO service. So the catch cry going around at the moment is FOGO is no-go at the moment. Go services, yes, they're looking, look potentially at rolling out that, but certainly not food and organics combined at the moment.
So it's a bin tax. It's a bin tax that generates revenue for the state. That's what the waste levy is at the moment.
Well, it's a financial instrument to make non-landfill resource recovery solutions more competitive with the cost of landfill over time. But at the moment, the cost of those other solutions are far more expensive than paying the waste levy into landfill, particularly for food.
But they're not using the funds that they generate from the waste levy to accelerate research and development or introduce incentives to move to those other ones. They're just keeping the consolidated revenue and giving a little bit back.
At the moment, 70% back into the sector, 30% to consolidated revenue.
Well, I haven't seen that. So there's $1 billion worth of waste levy that's been paid over the last 5 years. Where's the $700 million gone?
I would say a combination of the advance payments to councils plus various grants to private industry, etc., for various projects.
So ratepayers are getting taxed by the state government. We have to pass that tax on, so it looks like we're doing it. And then they get some grants and mysterious money that doesn't really come back. It just seems very unfair that they've created a system that was originally designed to stop interstate businesses from dumping in Queensland. But instead of targeting those businesses, they've said to everyday people, we're going to increase the cost of dumping to the point where you're going to have to find a way to do something else. But we're not offering you a clear pathway to what that something else looks like. We're not helping your councils get to that something else, and we're just going to keep the spare money that we get from you until you figure it out. And I guarantee you that 99.9% of our residents have no idea that the waste levy is designed to get them to divert from landfill. They don't even know it exists a lot of the time when they complain about how expensive it is to dump at the tip. And when this is for your household bin, though, you have no choice but to use this. That's why the flat-out revenue raising. It's a tax on people's bins. That's what it is, plain and simple.
Yeah, access to grant funding, like I said, it is problematic. It's something that we need the state to be more of an enabler and, a facilitator for councils to be able to divert more from the wheelie bins, which has been difficult to date. So that's a key piece of feedback.
They generate less revenue, so why would they actually want us to achieve that? It just seems incredibly unfair to me that they're going to tax you on your bin to change your behaviour in a way that they haven't explained to you without a clear pathway for you to actually comply, because there's no industry or technology that can meet their extremely high standards. So that it is literally an unfair bin tax that people have no choice but to pay because they can't FOGO effectively.
Can't FOGO at the moment.
No go for FOGO. It seems like a ridiculous situation where there's a levy that is meant to change behaviour, but there's no actual way for people to change their behaviour and avoid the levy. It seems incredibly unfair.
Hear what you're saying. And when we go to various, we're going to various groups we're part of, same discussions, everybody's saying the same thing. So, yeah, it's a challenge, but we'll keep advocating, and it's all you can do, really. Okay, no further questions? No. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Bannon, do I have a seconder? Councillor St Ledger, sorry. All those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Does anybody have any general business for Michael? No, Michael, do you have any for us?
No, not today.
Oh, wonderful. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. All right, we're moving along. Item 6.3, QRA Voluntary Home Buyback Rezoning Amendment to Logan Planning Scheme 2015. I note 6.3 is a public report, and I will now refer to the City Planning Program Leader, Mr. Christian Parks, to please speak to the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. This report seeks council endorsement to rezone 32 properties. It's the end of a process that was kicked off by council in 2022. These properties have been acquired by council under the Queensland Reconstruction Authority, QRA, Voluntary Home Buyback Scheme. This scheme was introduced by the state and federal governments in 2022 in response to floods experienced at that time. The program is managed and funded by the QRA. After acquiring the properties, the obligations on council are to remove the buildings, tidy up the sites and rezone the properties for non-habitable purposes. This is the last step in the process. Specifically, this report proposes to rezone these 32 properties via an amendment to the current planning scheme. We can do that very quickly and we can actually commence that amendment on the 1st of July this year. This will complete the required actions and allow council to be fully reimbursed for the cost of the buyback and the process that we've gone through since 2022. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Christian. I have a few. I have Councillor Lane, followed by Deputy Mayor Bannon, followed by Councillor Murphy.
Thanks very much for this, Christian. So going on, any properties handed over by the QRA to us, we're responsible for the mowing. What's the expected cost of taking on these 32 individual properties? Do you know? Ongoing.
Through the Chair, I'm not aware of the ongoing costs. I have to run that down and report back to you, Councillor Lane. In terms of the costs to date, in terms of acquisition, demolishing and cleaning up the site, those costs are factored into the funding that comes across to council as part of this immediate process.
Thank you. And there's no expectation that any of these 32 properties will be pushed to have swings and expensive park equipment allocated in them, is there?
I don't believe there is, and just to give a bit of context to that, these properties are generally properties which are significantly flooded. That's not going to change. So I think it's, whilst these properties are under the stewardship of the Parks branch at the moment, I don't think they've identified exactly what property will be used for what purposes. Some of those might be next to parks, which they could be a natural extension. Some of those I believe are even being investigated for potential offset sites. So I think that process is still to be carried out.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. I have Deputy Mayor Bannon and Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, through the Chair. I'm just going to some very basic questions, and they're more of a statement from you guys. I'm not Facebook reactive, but there's just been so many porky pies that you can't let the truth get in the way of a good Facebook post. So these are voluntary buyback. So at no stage did the state, the federal government or local council force these people to sell their homes to us?
Spot on. The process was the program is opened. If you had a property that you thought you'd like to engage in this process, you approached the QRA. They had criteria, went through a negotiation. If you are happy with the price that the QRA offered, then it proceeded to sale.
And council's changes in the flood mapping didn't make these properties available for sale. These properties were flood affected prior to anything that we did with the flood mapping.
Through the Chair, so part of the criteria was looking at the impacts after the 2022 floods. So I believe you needed to have experienced above floor flooding to be qualified for the program.
Also, rezoning the land to non-inhabitable, so we can't come in here and rezone the land, turn it into a commercial building or industrial building to make a fortune.
Through the chair, so it was very clear in the criteria when we do rezone these, they either need to be parks or natural environments. So there's no ability for us to make a commercial gain on these properties. There will, in fact, be a slight increased maintenance burden on council.
So to be clear, there was voluntary, run by the states and feds. No one was forced to sell in their houses. Flood map had no impact on it. We can't rezone the land and make a fortune on it.
That is 100% correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bannon. I now have Councillor Murphy.
Thank you through the chair, and thank you for the report. Probably to follow on from Deputy Mayor Bannon, there's a lot of innuendos out there. I just wanted to say on the record that in Division 12 there was 59 houses that were affected in this way that could have all had the opportunity to come to this and have their properties bought back if they felt. Out of the 59, only 3 have happened within Division 12. My question to you is, if we have another major flood where we see those other 56 properties get flood impacted, will they offer this service again, or is this grant money fully extended?
Through the chair, I imagine this is hypothetical, but if the same occurrence happened again, I would imagine that the state would go through the same process where they would offer voluntary buybacks, and there would be a similar process where people would opt in. They'd need to meet the criteria and there'd be a bucket of money available. Perhaps the reason why all the properties weren't acquired was simply a budgetary requirement. As you split millions of dollars across a whole state, it becomes very expensive for a state government to fund an entire buyback.
Thank you, Dave. In our circumstances down in Division 12, as far as I'm aware, only 3 took the option up. I just wanted to make it aware that even though this was available to everybody, not everybody took it up. And for those properties that didn't, understand that they're still probably affected with every flood that comes through. We'll still be there to assist them, but you've had opportunity to have a fair market price, because they gave market price, not just the valuation of the land, to be able to have their property purchased. And I know one in particular, I'm not going to mention names, but the lady was very grateful that this was an opportunity that she could take up. It was very stressful for her and her family. So thank you to the team. I know there was a lot of hard work, and I'm happy to move this report when we come out.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any other questions? No? Okay, Councillor Murphy has moved the report. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Bannon, all those in favour? Has been carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Okay, does anyone have any general business for the Economic Development and City Planning Manager, Mr. Dave Radage? Oh, Councillor Lane.
Dave, I just want to say thanks to your team. The Croydon Road project has seen some little bits of damage happen here and there, and they've been really quick to respond. We're using local infrastructure program funds to do some repairs on the bathroom facilities in that precinct. But I just want to say thanks to the team, because they've been acting very quickly on that, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Dave, do you have any GB for us?
Through the chair, no, I do not.
All right, so enjoy your day, and thank you, Christian. Thank you, Megan, for coming along as well. All right, well, that concludes the agenda for today. Does anyone have any general business for the Director of Growth, Economy and Sustainability, Mr. Dave Hanson? No? Do you have anything for us, Dave? No? Wonderful. I declare the City Planning, Economic Development Environment Committee meeting of the 11th of June 2025 concluded at 9:29, and the City Lifestyle meeting will commence in 10 minutes at 9:39. Thank you, councillors.